Hello dear parent, welcome to today's video. If you've been feeling distant from your child or wondering why the connection isn't forming the way you expected, you're not alone. And in today's topic I'll be talking about attachment theory, what it is, why it matters, and how it can impact not only your child's behaviors, but also your own emotional experience as a parent. This is a three-part series, so today we'll be talking about attachment, the basic of attachment, the 4 different types of attachment, and then in the next 2 videos we'll be talking about reactive attachment disorder, which is different from attachment and how that impacts parenting, how it impacts your child, and we'll be discussing those in the next 2 videos. But today I wanted to lay a foundation of what is attachment so that we can understand the basic of attachment. I also prepared a worksheet on this topic that you can download in the description box below. So before we dive in, welcome. I'm myCaRE&CO. I help Christian adoptive parents navigate the post-adoption season with faith, neuroscience, and connection to move through the trauma, the stress, the overwhelm to a nurturing home, healing connections, and to walk in the grace and wisdom that God provides. And in this channel, I share gentle encouragement, faith-filled wisdom, and trauma-informed tools for adoptive parents working through this real, hard, and beautiful journey of parenting. So let's dive in. So before we dive in, I hope you have your tea, your coffee, and you can sit with me as we can go through this attachment. So the first part is, what is attachment? And so attachment is the bond between a child and the caregiver, and there is always attachment. It is not just about love, how much I love my child. It's about safety, responsiveness, and how a child's brain and nervous system learns to expect the world to treat them. A bit of a history. In the 1950s, a psychiatrist called John Bowlby developed attachment theory. Sometime later came a psychologist, her name was Mary Ainsworth, and she identified the different parts that children develop based on their earlier relationships. And why does this matter? So attachment shapes the way the brain wires for connection, regulation, and even it's kind of like a survival thing. So again, it's not about love, it's about how safe and connected a child feels. There's an article by Dr. Daniel Siegel, which I will link in the description box below, and Dr. Daniel Siegel reminds us that attachment is not a fixed trait in a child. It's a reflection of the relationship, the ongoing relationship between the caregiver and the child. Your child is biologically wired to seek closeness with a protective adult from very young age. The child needs an adult to take care of him or her, and that's survival. So the baby cries and is picked up. The baby cries and is spoken to. So that's what the child needs, and that is what helps a healthy relationship, a healthy attachment. When that need is met with attunement, with sensitivity, with a quick response, so the child is not crying for 1 hour before he or she is being picked up. So with a timely response, it is what is called a secure attachment. And this is a foundation for healthy emotional regulation, identity, and relationships. But as we know, early experiences are not always like this. They're not always about healthy, secure attachment. So sometimes there's involved fear, loss, inconsistency of how the parent responded or the caregiver responded to the child, or maybe it's also a lot of shouting in the home, so there was this fear, and that foundation may not have formed in a way that it was meant to. So let's go over the 4 different types of attachment. We already spoke about secure attachment. So a securely attached child knows their caregiver is safe and responds well in a calm manner. They cry when they need help, and they feel confident to explore when things are calm because they have that secure attachment. They return to their parents for comfort, what we sometimes call a secure base. and then they feel comfortable and they're out ready to explore. So these kids tend to regulate well, trust adults, have healthy relationship, and they recover from stress more easily. And again, I'm not sure if I can do it in this video as a visual, but I will link it in the description box below. So there is a program which is called Circle of Security, and they have this visual of a circle, and at the base of the circle there are two hands. So these two hands are showing the safe, secure hands of an adult. And the program is from 0 to 6, but it's actually a visual which spans across a lifetime, because everybody has attachment, and this is the pattern that it goes. So you have these safe hands. So a child is safe, feeling safe, their nervous system is calm, and they're ready to explore. Imagine them, if they're young, in a playground, and something happens to them, and then they return back to you. They feel calm, they're secure, because at this point, they're still young, haven't learned how to regulate their own self, so they need your hands, they need your calmness, your regulation. And then once you're calm, like maybe they fell down, and then they come running to you, you just give them a hug, and this is kind of like what they just need, and then they're off again to explore. And this also happens in teenagers as well. So the same thing, something happens to them at school, they had a relationship conflict with someone, and they come to you, they process it with you, and then they're ready to go back and explore. So that is a healthy attachment, a secure attachment. Now there are three others which we can classify them as unhealthy attachment. So the first one that we can talk about is called avoidant attachment. So in this case, kids with an avoidant attachment often seem independent, but it's not necessarily confidence. They have learned that their needs won't be met, so they stop showing them. Kind of like push you away because I can do it. I don't need anyone. I'm a survivor. But what happens, their nervous system is still activated, but they have learned to shut down the signals, unfortunately. And you might notice that they don't come for comfort, or they reject any connection even when they need it. The other one is ambivalent or anxious attachment. So this is when the child may cling a lot, may demand, and may melt down easily. They have learned that care is inconsistent. Sometimes their needs are met, and sometimes not. But as a child, they can't decipher when they're met and when they're not. So for them is sometimes my caregiver is available, sometimes my caregiver is not available. So they amplify their signals, unsure if help will come. So they cry louder, and thinking that, if I cry louder, my caregiver is going to come. You might feel like you're walking on eggshells, not knowing what will suit them. The last one is the disorganized attachment, and this is the most complex and often rooted in trauma. So the children feels fear from the person they also need safety from. Their brain is a constant bind. I need you, but I'm not safe with you. And again, we see a lot of this in our children. This can show up as aggression, freezing, controlling behaviors, or intense confusion in relationships. Now I want to address some attachment myths. So when I was working in child welfare, we used to comment on the child does not have an attachment with caregiver. But this is false, because a child always has an attachment. Attachment comes in the form of a relationship, so a child always has an attachment with a caregiver. It's maybe not a healthy attachment, but there's still an attachment, so it might be an unhealthy attachment. So there's always an attachment. Another thing is that attachment is not about personality or temperament. It is formed in relationship with a caregiver, between a child and a caregiver. Now, what does this mean for the brain? So the attachment bond doesn't just shape the child's behavior, but it shapes their biology, their nervous system, how their brain wiring happens. So a child's early relationship affects how their nervous system learns to respond to stress, how they co-regulate, and even how their brain's threat and safety systems develop. This is also reflected in future relationships that they have. which might be evident in the kind of relationship that they actually have with you. So you start seeing the patterns from their early childhood, they keep on being repeated. Now, the good news is, I don't know if you've heard of the term called neuroplasticity. So this is the brain's ability to change. It's flexible and it can change. So even if your child didn't start with this secure attachment, healing is possible. And how is this? So this is your presence, you being safe, consistent, connected, present, can help reshape those patterns over time. It's not going to happen overnight, but over time it's going to help regulate them and make them feel safe. Some signs of secure versus insecure attachment that you might see. So securely attached kids often seek comfort when they're distressed. So it's a natural, I'm distressed and I seek comfort. Or they accept comfort when it's offered. Or they explore their environment confidently and they show trust in adults. On the other hand, insecurely attached kids might reject help or comforts. I can do it on my own. I don't need help. They can seem overly clingy or overly independent. They struggle with emotion regulation and they show extreme control or aggression in relationship because they're afraid that they're going to lose that relationship, because that's how their brain was wired when they were young for survival. Now, these aren't personality flaws. They are just survival strategies that they had to learn from these early relationships that they had in their life. All this information, why does this matter especially for adoptive parents? When a child hasn't had the chance to build this secure early attachment, it can show up in confusing ways. For example, as we said, they're withdrawing or they're pushing you away. There's this extreme neediness. There's lying, stealing, controlling behavior, or there's the child who seems so sweet to others, but then combative with you and in conflict constantly. And again, it can feel personal, but it is not. It's just protective. It's the way their brain and their nervous system is trying to survive, because that's what their brain knows from when they were young. And again, you might say, oh, but this happened, 15 years ago, and still we don't see any change. Yeah, unfortunately, it takes time, and with consistent effort, you being there safe, secure, and it will happen. It's just that it needs time, and everybody is different. So there's no particular timeline for one person which will be accurate for another person. It's all different. And I think it's also something to know that because of what happened to them, their nervous system is still scanning. Last time we also did about it's scanning for danger, not connection, because they don't know connection. What about you as a parent? And here is something that we don't talk about enough. So when attachment is hard, it doesn't just affect your child, it affects you as well. Many adoptive parents describe feeling emotionally distant, chronically frustrated, ashamed that they're struggling to feel loving, and this actually has a name which is called blocked care. And blocked care isn't a failure. It's a sign that your nervous system is overwhelmed. You're giving, and you're not getting anything back. And you're often stuck yourself in survival mode right alongside your child. But again, healing happens in relationship for them and for you. And I think the first step is that it starts with awareness, self-compassion, and the support to move out of survival and into connection. And you, first of all, having that self-care for yourself, self-compassion for yourself, and knowing it. And then slowly, when you're giving it to yourself, you start giving that connection to your child. Is it too late? Can attachment be repaired? So in the article by Dr. Daniel Siegel, in his research, it says that early experiences matter, but they don't determine everything. Just like a child's brain is shaped by relationship, it can actually be reshaped by new relationships. So your ongoing presence, your willingness to try again, your moments of warmth and delight, they matter deeply, even if you don't see instant results. So I want you to take heart and say that attachment can be rebuilt. And even if you have struggled for years, there is always hope. And it always starts again from you showing self-compassion to yourself, because you can't give from an empty cup. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself so that you can have those calm moments around your child, that delight in them, that calmness, that softness around the child, so that connection can happen. With time, support, and relationship-based parenting, children can move towards secure attachment. So if you're here feeling worn out, discouraged, or unsure of how to help your child connect, take a deep breath. You are not failing. You are in the middle of something which is hard. And I want you to pat yourself on the back and realize how hard it is and how much work you've been investing in this. Again, God designed attachment as the gateway to trust and healing. And through both scripture and science, we're learning how to rebuild what was broken. If this video has helped you, subscribe and share with another adoptive parent who needs hope today. And also maybe a professional who needs to hear this. And let me know in the comments what has your experience been with attachment and how this video has provided more maybe clarity about attachment. Don't forget the worksheet that I've created in the description box below, the article. I'm also linking a quiz from a different organization, and you can take this quiz to see yourself in which pattern you are of the attachment, but also your child. But again, I don't want it to be descriptive. I don't want it to say, oh, you're avoidant, that's why you're doing this. So not throwing it back at your child, but more of some awareness rather than it being, something binding that you can't move from it. And if you want practical support on this journey, I invite you to check out my group coaching program. It's a faith-informed, neuroscience-backed group program for adoptive parents like you. So thank you again for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.